Thank you very much. It's always a challenge to open the afternoon session, especially if we are kind of short in time and behind the schedule. So I have to speed up a little bit and move into the presentation directly, showing you a possibility of creating content on the fly, a rapid authoring tool. So taking up speed is a good cue for this afternoon session. Lecture recording and video podcasting with Lecturnity 2.0. The idea is to generate e-learning content on the fly by recording lectures, presentations of all kinds with the tool Lecturnity. So if we are talking about presentation recording, you might ask the question, why do we need the software for that? If we have a video camera, we can just record what we are doing here. This is an approach that is done by many universities. However, video recording has a certain kind of disadvantages. First, you generate an awful lot of data. Huge data volumes are generated by video collections, by video recordings. In addition, video recordings don't offer possibilities of search and retrieval functionalities within the presentation, and they also produce poor quality if it comes to showing and recording. On the one hand, the lecturer, the presentation, the guy who does the presentation on the one hand, and second, if you want to show and record the slides that contain the content, the actual content of the presentation. So with Lecturnity, we are following a different approach. We are using the PowerPoint slides as the point of departure for the presentation, and we are recording all activities and all sources of information that are contained in a presentation. To show you how it works, I would like to switch to the microphone because I have to sit down and do the presentation from there. Yeah. Okay, to give you an idea what Lecturnity does in the first place, I'll show you a real recording done at the university in Germany. The professor who records the speech, the presentation, and uses PowerPoint slides, handwritten annotation on the slides during the lecture. Now, I turn on the volume here. What you can see is that we can move within that presentation recording on that timeline below. You see the handwritten annotation done on the slides immediately, and you see the simultaneous synchronization of video, audio, and the actions on the PowerPoint slides. So we are recording at one and the same time audio, video, the slides, the animation of the slides, and the handwritten annotation on the slides. In addition, you get different ways of navigating within the presentation, the recording document on the slides here on the left-hand side. You also have a possibility of doing full text searches within that recording document. So if you look for a keyword like compression, no, we don't see a result here. So you get results from that search going on over the slides and looking for the keywords there. The basis of that search possibility in Lecturnity recordings is the import of PowerPoint objects as objects, so we can actually search for content on the PowerPoint slides. Now, as this is kind of theoretical, I would like to move into a presentation or a recording we are doing here right now. And I would like to go into a PowerPoint presentation I prepared for today on the topic of malaria, which is not my field of specialty, but that doesn't really matter. It's just to demonstrate the production process of Lecturnity presentation recording. So the starting point is my PowerPoint slide, with all the objects contained on the slides. If you have Lecturnity installed, you get the different two new entries in PowerPoint. Open with the Lecturnity Assistant, and if you click on that, we are importing the PowerPoint slides into the Lecturnity Assistant, which is the pre-production or presentation recording environment we are using. So we don't need the PowerPoint slides anymore, so we can close that and move into the actual presentation and recording environment, which is the Lecturnity Assistant. I'm closing a couple of windows behind that Lecturnity Assistant window because at some point I want to, in the presentation, I want to use that video clip to demonstrate what I present in a more rather theoretical way on the basis of the example of that animation. What happens in human blood when the disease starts, when the infection starts. So this is an additional source of information which I want to use within my presentation. So we have the video, my video, and I have a video camera here. The second source is the audio component. The third source of information, the slides and the annotation on the slides I'm going to make. And the fourth source of information is that animation. So we have imported the PowerPoint slides into Lecturnity. We can start the video component and say, okay, we want to record me, so if my camera works, so that should be okay. Don't move. Yeah. So we can now start the recording process, which is actually the content production process. Now, if you remember the PowerPoint slides, you had the structure with the different slides on it, with the different objects on it. And what I mentioned before, we are importing the PowerPoint objects as objects. You can see here, I can move, I can add things on that Lecturnity format, which we are using now for the recording process. So these are vector graphics we are importing into the Lecturnity Assistant. On the bottom of that page, we have different tools for making the annotations, the handwritten annotations. We have the recording button, which I press now, and we are starting the recording process at this point. So we have the video control window here. We have a means of navigating within the PowerPoint slides. I can demonstrate something with the pointer here. I can make the annotations on the slides. I can mark things on the pictures that are included here. This is actually the most important point here on that mosquito, which is responsible for the infection that takes place. So I'm not saying anything about malaria, but just moving through the presentation, doing a number of interactions with the slides. So here we have the three phases of that infection process. Yeah. Here again, the liver, that's the most critical part because it's infected by that mosquito in general. So at this point, I'm moving back because then I want to use that video, that animation, which I demonstrated early on. So to record that video as a video clip, I move into the screen grabbing mode. I select the window and I record the animation or any other kind of desktop activity that is taking place during the recording process. Now I'm going to stop that, move on to the next slide, and include a new page. Thanks for your attention. So I push the stop button, and now I have recorded that presentation with all sources of information I used during the presentation process. This is the recording document I have done. And without further processing, without doing anything afterwards, after the presentation and after the recording, which is the content creation process, I have the possibility of starting the Lecturnity player and look at the result, which we have here. And we're starting the recording process at this point, so we have the video. So, this is the result of our recording or content production process, and you see without further post-editing work, I have the information and the annotations available in that recording document. So now after that slide, I included that video clip, which now is part of that presentation recording document. You can look at it in the full screen mode, so we see the video, that animation laid over the PowerPoint slides. So this is actually the result of our presentation process. We could do the full text search again, malaria, and we get the results, 6 slides where we have that keyword malaria, and I can do a targeted search to that slide to find what I'm interested in. Now, this is the first step. We have recorded it, we have replayed it, we have produced an intermediate format within during the recording process, and based on that intermediate format, I can do a number of things afterwards. We have looked at the result already, but we can also move into the publishing process. The publishing process will define the target formats of the presentation, the formats in which you want to present the document and the content, the e-learning content, to your audience, to your students, for instance. So we are now working on the basis of the intermediate format that we have produced during the recording process, and we are generating the final formats for the distribution of the content to the students. So we are led through that publication process by a wizard, which allows me to select the target formats I want to provide the students with: real media, Windows media formats, streaming formats that can be used over the internet. I can do a Flash document, an iPod document, a video iPod document, which can be played on a video iPod, so you can create mobile content with it. That's the video podcasting part of it. So we are sticking to the Lecturnity presentation document, which is the proprietary format that Lecturnity generates. You can adapt the presentation to a different bandwidth, have different options of showing that final presentation. You can integrate the presentation in a CD collection, so you can do a collection of presentation recordings, a content collection for a specific topic, infectional biology as a topic, and then you add the malaria presentation, the malaria content, the HIV content, and so on and so forth. So you can do a collection of presentation content. Now we are finishing that publication process based on the intermediate format, which is not changed by that publication process. We have now generated a final format for distributing to students, and we can look at that result again. And here you see the final results of what we've done so far. So here you see the thumbnails, the little images of the slides, and you have the possibility of navigating as we have seen it before. So that's the first post-recording process we have seen here. Now what I would like to do again is, within that publication process, generate an iPod document. So this is an MPEG-4 video format that you can export to a video podcast server and then download to the iTunes application that runs on your desktop, and then transform it and channel it over to the mobile component, the mobile device you have. So we do that, we finish it, and now we are producing the MPEG-4 video format as a second final format that can be distributed to the students. So we are creating the file, as you can see here. The conversion is successful. I can podcast it. So now I'm connecting to the server. With our internet connection here. So it's transferring the data to that server, and in the second step, the next step, I can move to iTunes, where I have subscribed to that podcast server, which is runs in Germany, and can download the video podcast to the iTunes application on my desktop. I hook up the iPod, and then we're all set. Yeah, connection isn't that fast, but then we can also cancel it here and have a look at yeah, maybe that's the reason, but that's not that problematic. So I'm going to stop the transfer so we can move on to the next. Now, what I've shown so far is a relatively easy and simple way of recording presentations. This is a way universities use it for lecture recording, for providing students with recorded lectures done in a classroom setting or done by the professor before or outside the classroom as a kind of a separate production process with regard to what is done in the classroom. There are a number of universities who use the tool university-wide to generate easy content and provide students with the possibility of reviewing lectures, of going over material again in preparation of exams courses. Now, the next step, what we've seen so far, is recording, it's the publishing process, and the distribution process via the different formats we have generated. Now, in a second step, I would do a different kind of recording, showing you other possibilities of the tool of generating content. What we've done so far is producing a linear, time-based recording document that reflects the actual presentation done in a classroom or in a studio setting, if you want. Now, with the Lecturnity, you're also able to generate a different format of e-learning content, an interactive form of content that is close to web-based trainings, where you can add interactive elements, interactive components in that content, including testing and questions, learning path within that document. To show you that process briefly, I go into a different presentation, also on malaria, but you see the difference is I inserted here a number of empty slides where I want to put some questions on it in the next step. So, what we're doing again, open this slide in the Lecturnity assistant, the production and recording environment. And the first step is always recording a document, saying something, doing the annotations, and record the presentation as such. Again, I close the PowerPoint slides because I don't need them. I have the Lecturnity assistant here. We are moving rapidly through that presentation. I'm not going to do an awful lot of interactions with it, just a few things here, a few annotations, and then just go through that presentation by clicking on that button here and moving to the end of that presentation. So I stopped the recording process, and now we are moving in an editing process. So a post-editing process done within the Lecturnity editor. Now that there was the player, I'll push the wrong button. Here we can start the Lecturnity editor, the editing environment for that presentation. Now what you can see is what I mentioned earlier. We are recording all sources of information as different components within that recording document. So it's not a video we are producing, but we have a stream for the slides, with the slides which you can see here, the video, which is available here, and the audio component. Now if you want to edit the presentation, I can do it here by cutting out different sections of that recording document, of adding other pages to it. But what I want to show is the interactive part of the post-recording process. So I can insert into that recording document a number of stop marks. I'm doing a very simple example. I want to add stop marks at the end of each slide here. So if you're moving on that along the timeline, the presentation stops here, because that's what I wanted to do. I inserted stopwatch. Now at this point I'm asking, so what is going to happen at this point? What is the action I want the learner, the student, perform at this point? So I insert a button, an interactive button. Yeah. I use an image button, continue. So the learner, the student, is required to push on that button to move on within that presentation recording document. So this is going to show, to appear on all pages, and the action is jump to the next page. I mentioned earlier that you can create learning paths within that document. Okay, you can move back to the first page. You can jump to page number 6 within that document. So we are now moving into transforming that linear time-based recording document in a hypermedia format with interactions. Yeah? So we go to the next page, and this is going to appear on all pages. The same action appears here, and now we are on an empty slide at this point. Here I want to insert a question. So the learner has to ask to answer a question which I create here, a drag and drop question. So first question, enter the question, so move the slide, the images to the correct box. I'm skipping that process, and I'm adding some images. This is an Anopheles fly responsible for malaria transmission. I define the boxes where I have to move the images. So this is, the first one is Drosophila. The second one is Anopheles. Yeah. How often can I work on that slide, on that question? Yeah, I have one possibility within 2 seconds, within 2 minutes, and how many points do I get for that? That is something I define here. Now, what? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just finishing this example, and then we're done. What is going to happen when the student has finished, has answered the question? It goes on to the next page. So this is interaction that takes place here, and now you can do the test. You can move the images to the boxes, and if it's correct, you get the correct answer. So let's do that. So Anopheles, Drosophila, submitted, and yeah, you get the response. Yeah, I didn't mark the correct answer. So this is just an example of how to work with a Lecturnity recording document with interactive elements, with interactive components, with testing components that are possible to be included in the Lecturnity editor post-processing environment. And now, if you click on continue, we move on to the next page, and this is the interactive component that we've included earlier. So from this document, I can again do the publishing process and move into providing different formats of that recording document in terms of content for learners and students. So to finish that short presentation, I would just briefly go back to that initial presentation. So we have a preparation phase where you do the PowerPoint slides and prepare the material. You do the recording process with the laptop in the classroom setting. The result is a recording document with different components, different streams, sources of information synchronized during the recording process. We can now add interactivity and testing. That is an example for the tests. And we can then move into the new mobile scenario with providing video podcasts on iPods, Sony PlayStations, or smartphones as a result. This is what I've already done so far, and this is where the mobile scenario is supported by the presentation. So we have recording documents, we have interactive content, and mobile content as a result of rapid content production on the basis of lecture recording that we've done. There are a couple of demo CDs with a tool on it. If you want to try it out, install it on the computer and you can work with it. and figure out how it works and do your own content. This is actual content that is provided to students, and feel free to do so. Thank you very much.